Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, and not here with Geeky Sparkles in this video. We're going to do a follow-up to yesterday's video, though, about Cartoon Network. That it really feels like Cartoon Network is shutting down. You know, when people die, and like, not to be morbid, but like the organs start to go, and they all kind of go in a certain order, and then the last thing to go is the hearing, I've heard. Right, but you can see like everything kind of shut down, the kidneys shut down, and then the lungs are starting to shut down, the heart's shutting down, and the body's getting ready to die. I think Cartoon Network is getting ready to die as a brand. There's a lot of reasons that I believe this. We're going to talk about it. You know, first and foremost, obviously, is they left their Burbank office, I think last year, and they're not doing any new shows. That's not a good sign. And the shows that they have, they're getting moved to Adult Swim and HBO Max. And Boomerang is basically getting rebooted over on MeTV. There is no future for Cartoon Network. Like, I think David Zaslav has made it very clear that he doesn't really care about cartoons. He doesn't care about animation. He only cares about profit. And they've got a lot of this stuff in the pipeline. And they're going to put it wherever it makes the most sense to get as much money out of it as possible. And look, he's shown that he's not averse to shutting down productions entirely if he thinks he can save a buck. I mean, look at what happened to the Wile E. Coyote movie. Was it Coyote versus Acme? Look what happened to Batgirl, right? I think he's basically shutting down Cartoon Network by degrees and just moving these remaining projects to HBO Max or Adult Swim. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. No woohoos in this video. It wouldn't be appropriate anyway. A lot of people are going to be out of work. You know, what's really unfortunate is as I was looking into this situation with Adult Swim, and I think we talked about this a little bit more, but the guy who was the voice of Brack is working for Amazon now. Like, they didn't really take care of him, right? This is Andy Merrill. He said, if you told me 30 years ago today I'd be at the bottomest, rockiest rung of the rock bottom ladder, I wouldn't have believed you. That's really, that depresses the hell out of me. I know the voice actor of Frylock, I think it was Casey Means, was having some financial difficulties too. Like, they don't care. And there are a lot of showrunners, very arrogant showrunners working in animation who had series just a couple of years ago, Netflix or Cartoon Network, who were in for a very rude awakening. This industry doesn't take care of you very, very well. And this is going to be you in a few years if you don't learn to adapt or course correct or find something else to do. It's not looking real good for Western animation people right now, unfortunately. But I think that they should have taken care of their OG Adult Swim people a lot better, because Adult Swim was huge. Adult Swim was actually kind of floating Cartoon Network for a while. And it's just very, very sad that this is happening. But let's talk about this. This is Invincible Fight Girl. And a couple of people told me about this before. I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, but apparently they are moving this show from Cartoon Network. And this is a DC Comics based show. They're moving it from Cartoon Network to Max and Adult Swim. And then this one, which is Ayanu, which is from Lion Forge. This is like the only animated series I think they've done, but they said that Cartoon Network only has one upcoming original show, a co-production, so they're paying for it, with Lion Forge. It's going to premiere sometime this year, but they might kick it over to Adult Swim too. Now, people are saying that they think they might kick it over to Adult Swim. If that is the case, that this gets kicked over to Adult Swim or gets, you know, dumped onto HBO Max or whatever, they don't have any original shows in development for Cartoon Network. And you know what that tells me? There is no future for Cartoon Network. You don't boot everybody out of the Cartoon Network offices in LA if you have plans for more shows. I think this probably explains too why they're just running nonstop Teen Titans Go. This is a channel that's going to be sunsetted. Is that very soon? Very soon, I think. And again, back to MeTV. This is Boomerang. This is what Cartoon Network originally was, a 24/7 network with classic cartoons from the Turner Vault. And then eventually, after a couple of years, they branched out and started doing some original stuff. And Space Goes Coast to Coast was actually, I think, their first original anything that they did. And now the people who worked on that are working for Amazon. I mean, it's just really bizarre. And here's another thing that seems to lend a little bit of weight to the idea of Cartoon Network and or Adult Swim getting shut down, you know, those brands being retired, is the games. There were Adult Swim games out there, and we didn't cover it on the channel. I kind of wish we would have in hindsight, but there were several Adult Swim mobile games, Steam games, that were suddenly pulled from the stores. And some of these games have been around for, you know, a decade plus. I think Robot Unicorn Attack was one that's been around for a long time. Well, they pulled them out of the stores without warning. And this is kind of like what happened with HBO Max and Cartoon Network before. Remember the big purge where they just like canceled a whole bunch of shows like Infinity Train, stuff like that. And again, it had nothing to do with the quality of the series. It was just like, it's very obvious they were not investing in original content anymore. But they've just given those Adult Swim games back to their creators. Right? They just reverted the rights back to the creators. That means there is no future for Adult Swim games. And once these other shows are done, is there a future for Adult Swim? I mean, what is the purpose of Adult Swim? If they're not producing original content, really, what, like Rick and Morty? Well, you can just run that on HBO Max. You can run it on Hulu. You don't need a dedicated network for that. I don't think that Adult Swim and Cartoon Network are going to produce original content anymore. I really don't. I don't think there's a reason for it. And again, especially after the MeTV cartoon thing, this is Cartoon Network. And somebody else is picking up the tab for it. Warner Brothers is providing the content, and they're taking the chance on running it. This is coming from Ars Technica. This is a couple days ago. Warner Brothers gives Adult Swim games back to their creators rather than kill them. It's unclear why they wouldn't have done this in the first place. I don't know. Probably legal reasons. They retired their games 2 months ago with little to no response as to why they couldn't do something simple. Probably had to run it through legal. Last week, one of the Adult Swim's games creators impacted by Warner Brothers' seeming shutdown posted on X that he received an email from Warner Brothers indicating that his duck game was safe. The game is being returned to Corptron along with its store pages on all platforms. The same went for Owen Deary, who's knows from Warner Brothers about his game Small Radios, Big Televisions, brought attention to the media conglomerate's actions, and who posted that his game too will have its ownership and store listings returned to him. As noted by PC Gamer, the 60-day timeline originally provided to developers for their games to be delisted has passed, and yet most of the Adult Swim game titles are still up. Warner Brothers seems to have narrowly avoided sabotaging its credibility with developers by not following through on a remarkably short-sighted, low-effort sabotage, as noted by Fist Puncher developer Matt Cain in a comment. Transferring a game from one publisher to another account really takes a minute to initiate. I'm sure it's legal reasons. They have to jump through a bunch of hoops. They're a big company. They probably have to clear it with legal. Developers could only guess as to why Warner Brothers would choose to remove their games rather than letting them continue catching trickles of sales or simply transfer them. Deary previously suggested that even the modicum of paperwork necessary to track and distribute sales tax and forms might have pressed the move. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, keeping track of royalties and stuff like that, it's a pain in the ass. And you think about like DC Comics and Marvel Comics, it's actually another possible reason I could see them outsourcing comics is just the paperwork involved in keeping track of, okay, this person created this character and this person created that character. And we got to give this person, $52. And this person this quarter gets, this much money, and that person versus like, let's just, license out the DC characters to somebody else. And then it's their problem. They can deal with that. They can deal with all that. Developers could have relisted their games, but all the games reviews, discussion, screenshots would have been lost. Ars has requested comment from Warner Brothers and will update this post with any response. I doubt it. Warner Brothers' move to retire titles on game storefronts comes after both the relative wind down of the once promising Adult Swim games and the Warner Brothers Discovery merger that led to the conspicuous cancellation and shelving of media, often acclaimed tax write-offs. This combined firm has shut down Rooster Teeth, shelved Batgirl and Coyote vs. Acme, and struck numerous well-regarded titles from its streaming service now known as Max. Yeah, and this was the first blow. And this was 2 years ago. There were all these Cartoon Network era animated shows that suddenly got gone. They got purged, and some of them are not even available to buy physically. Like, they're gone. Like, you can't. Now, some of these creators could probably get these series back, but as I understand it, it's very difficult to get your show back from Cartoon Network because they want reimbursed for a lot of the expense. Like, I know the Megas XLR guys wanted to buy that back, and it was like millions of dollars. So, but yeah, a ton of shows got burnt. Man, they're begging for money here on NPR. They really are. But yeah, here's a whole bunch of stuff that they got rid of. You know, Aquaman, King of Atlantis, that was relatively new. That was 2022. That was the guy who did Thundercats Roar. You know, a lot of these shows, Infinity Train, which I actually liked, at least the first couple of seasons. OKKO, gone. Yeah, it's not good. And I think Thundercats Roar, if I remember correctly, like that one you can't even find on streaming anymore either. So this whole era of Cartoon Network has just been a bust, and it's just a giant tax write-off for them. So I think it's over. I think we're getting there. I mean, the fact they only have like 1 or 2 shows in the hopper and they're moving them to Adult Swim, and they'll just move Adult Swim to Max, and then they'll just bundle it with Disney and call it a day. It's over. Like, Cartoon Network is over. It was great in its time, and I'm going to look back on that era, I think, of Adult Swim especially, and be like, you know, have really wistful memories of it like I did for Liquid Television on MTV, but it exists in a certain place and time, and in this new economic reality, it's just not viable. And it's over, man. Peak cartoon is over. So there we go. But there's lots of old stuff to watch, and I think a lot of independent animators will create new stuff. But as far as, you know, Cartoon Network being the place for cartoons, Adult Swim being the place for edgy cartoons. Now, you know, Rick and Morty and Smiling Friends are a big hit, and Smiling Friends season 2, I guess, just dropped, and people are really excited about that. But they could just punt that over to HBO Max and call it a day. You know, I think peak Adult Swim and probably Cartoon Network as a brand, it's over, guys. It's just done. It's done. It was fun, and now it's done. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.